Then also I addressed potholes on our streets. We're going to start getting some more of those out before it's really bad. I've been using cold patching them. We don't have any severe ones, just little small annoyances, and we'll take care of those. And that's my report.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Recreation Commission report by Gary Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor. If I can find it here. Well, I know that we discussed at our meeting the fall festival that was held at Spencer Shank Park. And we had Ms. Krafka there from the Recreation Commission in attendance, and she was there to hand out flyers and talk to people about our parks and the types of equipment that we have. And it was surprising that many people that attended that event didn't even know we had that park or any of the other parks or any of the features that we had. So it was kind of shocking that so many people who live in the village or around the village didn't even know we had those parks.
That is shocking.
So it's good. She was there, handed out information. We sent some flyers out with her. And one of the other things that people asked about were renting our shelters, because we had that on there. And I think we've been doing pretty good with the shelter rentals. Some people even rent them twice a year, we hear. So that's a good thing to kind of push. And that way people are using the parks and enjoying them. We also discussed the Citizen of the Year award. That's going to be issued by the village this year, and we're still asking for people to send in nominations for Citizen of the Year so that we can make that decision.
There have been 2 press releases issued. So far, no letters.
No letters still? Okay. So anybody out there, if you know somebody that's deserving, please send their information to us. Also, we discussed the decorations for Main Street. We kind of kicked around what to use our banners for and versus wreaths and lights that we had for Main Street in the past. I have more information on that now. Everybody kind of thought about paring down the amount of lights to save a little money on Main Street, but they were all up for putting lights up and the wreaths up. And also, we talked about putting the flags and banners on the light poles as you enter the different neighborhoods. So you know how when they were up on the poles, they got lost up there. So if we get them down lower, put them on the light poles, I think that they'll make a little impact and look nice. So that's what we discussed there. And Todd and I have been working on the decorations, and we pared it down. We had 36, and we have 14 that all look alike and are in decent shape. So that's what we're suggesting that we put up this year, the 14. And we kind of pared it down, basically, say, from Walgreens to Quail Creek entrance. And I think, Rick, you counted 12 poles?
Yes.
Well, we have 14, so we can go 1 pole or 2 poles in either direction. We had the One Seasons greetings that we'd like to put at the beginning up here. And then the rest of them that are all like. We have some larger ones, which Rick said that you have to have somebody else.
We have to have a lift truck because it's just too heavy for one person. They weigh about 35, 40 pounds. And in that little bucket, we had Adam, who was a stout individual, could not get him up. So we had to contact Mr. Dunn from Bethel, who had a regular, like a CG&E boom truck that he would take him up on and set him. But the cost is pretty significant for him to do that.
Yeah. So what we were thinking, just in looking at them, is maybe putting them up. You think it'd be a problem to put them up on our backstop fences at the parks?
No, we would have to give them the height that we have.
Right.
Because you're talking 15 to 18 feet
Right.
in the air out there. If you're only 8 or 10 foot, 2 people could handle it and get it up.
Yeah, I hate to just have them sit because those are
look at
nice
this one
ones.
actually with the excavator up that high just to pull it from place.
And then we have about 12 that are really beat up,
Put them in the
cracked.
park, how are you going to light them up?
They don't have to light up.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't want to light them up. Just decorate with them. I think they'd look nice just hanging on the fence there. So
It'd be high enough up there, not gonna get vandalized, right?
Well, yeah.
That, they're, you know,
Anything-
they're a good 3.5, 4 foot diameter. You hang them on a 10-foot fence, they're going to be about 5.5 foot above ground. At the beginning, they could jump through the hoop if they wanted to, I guess.
So it's up to you if you think to hang up a couple, see how it goes. We have about 6 of those, you know, to hang from the fences just to use them. But other than that, we have 14 that are cleaned up, bulbs replaced, wiring repaired, and ready to go. I do have costs that was sent to Rick for each pole. Duke, for a fee, is $35 to use their pole, plus electric charges. So if we went down from, say, 36 down to 14, that's a significant cut. And I think it'll look nice, especially though I'll be alike, because we have some that are different than others and different types of materials.
Yes, I know.
So that's kind of what we've found.
They've been here for years.
Yeah. And that's what I have.
All right. Questions or comments for Mr. Campbell? Next item on the agenda is the approval of outstanding bills. Let the record show that the bills are on council's desk tonight. Anyone have any questions?
I have one question. I know in our finance committee, Kevin kind of said that we have about a $6,000 bill for Laura Abrams Law Firm. And I don't, you know, now we're up over that. Just want to see kind of where we stand with that.
After the meeting, she submitted 2 others. It went to a total of about $20,000, $23,000, so we still owe about $10,000. Retainer excess hours, as she calls it, and whatnot. I paid the 13 because the funds were available. One of the ordinances tonight is to appropriate additional money to pay off her bills, as well as have enough money set aside to pay Julia. I think she'd appreciate that.
Now, would that be final payment then, after those?
It should be, yes. Her last bill was through November 6th or 7th. I can't remember for certain which.
Was the day of the meeting, I think?
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second. Discussion or questions? Roll call.
Mr. Campbell,
Yay.
Mr. Pollitt,
Yay.
Ms. Gerber,
Yay.
Mr. Hart,
Yay.
Mr. Rosser,
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Nay.
Passes 5-1.
Next item on the agenda is an executive session. However, in consideration for those people that are here in the audience this evening, I'm going to go ahead and move the agenda around a little bit so that you don't have to stay if you don't want to, because we'll have an executive session followed by some legislation and council input. So, in the event that residents who may be here to speak to council this evening, if you don't want to hang around to the end of the meeting, or to the council, to the public input section, I'll open the floor to the public right now. Anyone who'd like to address council, if you would like to address council, just Step forward and introduce yourself and state your business.
Yeah, my name is Tom Barnett. I live in Amelia, at Woodside Park subdivision.
Yes, sir.
There was a disturbing incident happened on November the 14th, Thursday, almost 2 weeks ago. Me and my brother, we like to do a lot of walking, so we're walking out of the neighborhood at the East Village Parkway and Woodside Park Drive. And this white pickup truck comes zipping around the corner and just misses my brother. So, as we were walking up the street, we were coming up here to fill out a police thing to watch our house while we're going on vacation. So, Officer Colby happened to be at Grove Park. So we mentioned it to him, so he went down subdivision to find the truck. And meanwhile, we were walking up here, and as we got to the city hall, he came back. Officer Colby was driving down the side, and we asked him if he found out who it was, and he said, yeah, it was some cement contractor. We asked him who it was. Once again, police department, he wouldn't say, oh, I can't tell you who it is. So how are you going to complain to a company something their employers did? Well, be that as it may, we're up here. I was talking to Julie here about that. She gave me a form. Chief Wallace was here, so we brought it up to him. All we got out of him was he shrugged his shoulders. Right there. That's this incident. When we got back to our subdivision that day, we went down where I know the cement contractor was working on one of the condos because they had just put the driveways down. So one of their workers there had asked the worker, who's in charge here? He says, well, that man over there, he was driving a Bobcat cleaning off the street. So I go over to him. He was very contemptuous. He was all mad that what he called the police on. And at the same time, one of the Drees foreman was there. So I talked to him. Next thing you know, the guy jumps out of the Bobcat and comes and threatens me and my brother. The guy says, hey, stand off. This is the Drees guy. And he was supposed to talk to him. We haven't heard a darn thing since there. Drees is not a very good neighbor in our neighborhood. They sell houses, but their subcontractors are terrible. They race through the neighborhood. They're kind of low-life people. That's what I had to say to you. All right? Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Chief, can you respond to Mr. Bernard's comments? Are you able to?
I was here when they stopped by to turn in a vacation slip for the house. They expressed to me this complaint about the white pickup truck almost striking them. They said they let Officer Merle know about it and that he went back to locate the truck. The incident they were describing, he did not see, but he did see the white pickup truck do what we call a California roll through a stop sign. So he stopped him, wrote the man a warning. The fella that he stopped described to him two gentlemen who were personally making obscene gestures at him. So I don't know how that relates.
This was
They
after the
did
fact.
say that Officer Merle would tell them the name of the person that he said that they needed to file a public records request to the PD to get the information off of that warning citation.
Mr. Bernard, have you filed a police report with regard to the incident
No.
where the gentleman confronted you, or you can always file a police report, and there'll always be documented steps as to what has occurred. That makes sense to you, Julie?
Yes.
Okay. At least at that point, the police department has an obligation to investigate and/or document their findings. So, first, I apologize to you for the fact that one of the Drees vendors was less than professional. I think it's not fair to blame Drees. They hire, I think, subcontractors in the construction setting are pretty much what they are abroad. I haven't been involved in building a couple of my own homes. I've found that your comments pretty accurate. So I think you protect yourself in a case like this by actually filing a documented police report, thereby making it the obligation of police chief and the police department to document whatever findings are discovered as a result of your complaint.
So you would just come up here and ask for a form, right?
What is the procedure for filing a police report, Chief?
If they're filing a false or a police report, they can either come here and file it or have an officer stop by at their residence.
That way, your concern is documented. The department has an obligation to follow up in some way in a written capacity. There would be documented evidence of, whatever the appropriate procedure is. Does that make sense to you, Chief?
Yes, it does.
All right, thank you.
That's what I would recommend pretty much on anything where there's a sort of a safety concern or some such thing like that. I would always recommend a documented police report. And the same goes if you have a complaint about a village employee or, in this case, a police officer. Come see the police chief, and just say that you would like to file a complaint on that officer. That would then bind the chief to looking into the situation. There would have to be some resolution drawn as to whether or not there's accuracy in the allegations, as to what course of discipline might be taken, if any. Does that make sense to you from a legal standpoint as a solicitor? And I can personally tell you that we get complaints on a daily basis on something or another. Some of them are somebody just calling who just wants to blow off steam. Once they've blown off steam, they're done. They don't really want to do anything formal about it. They just want to complain about it. That brings it to our attention. Depending on the severity of the complaint, the severity of the complaint and the manner of the complaint, from my standpoint and what I've tried to put forward to our supervisory team is, prioritize your workload accordingly, based on the complaint or based on the issue. For example, if you say, the best way to get my attention, if a complaint comes to my desk and it says, there's a tree hanging off the side of Main Street. I don't know whose responsibility it is, but it's going to fall and kill somebody. We're going to assess that within a few minutes after I get the email. Because the village is I've now been made aware of it in writing. I feel I have an obligation to research it to find out whose obligation it is to fix it. And I may perhaps endorse the repair prior to knowing whose obligation it is in the matter of public safety, in the interest of public safety. So, documentation, just in general, is always going to be your best bet.
All right, thank you.
Hope that helps. Anybody have anything they want to add or correct me on? This is your chance. All right. Other public input?
I live in Mr. Burnett's neighborhood. My name's
Oh.
Al Osborne. I just moved here.
Yes, sir.
And moved here from Georgia, as a matter of fact. I'm not familiar with the village, township situation, how it stacks up, so I thought I can check it out. But Mr. Burnett is right. There are a lot of folks back there who are employed there, and I don't work, so I'm home all day. And I see all these subcontractors coming in and out. And quite honestly, sometimes I'm rather reluctant to leave my house, except for the fact that I've got a couple dogs. And they see the dogs and they hear the dogs, so I don't worry about it too much. But I have seen a lot of folks who don't belong there, particularly at night, very slowly cruising through the neighborhoods. And I was reluctant to call the police department because they haven't really done anything. It's not illegal to drive through a neighborhood, but it's pretty obvious what they're doing. But I do see the police department back there a good bit. But some kind of neighborhood watch or something would probably be a good idea.
I think, and the same advice sort of applies. Our police department is a service department. If you see something that's suspicious to you or makes you feel uncomfortable, we'd really like to hear about it, because even though our officers are on patrol on a regular basis in a small area, and our officers really have knowledge of who's coming and going, it's not to say that you couldn't see something that they don't see. And I would highly recommend making a call when you see something that causes you concern, or you feel like the police just need to look at, just to be made aware of. And any time and every time you see something that you feel like you feel better about having the police available, I mean that's why you pay your taxes.
Well, it's kind of like you can call up and say somebody's driving through without their lights on at night.
A better way to phrase it would be saying a suspicious car frequently driving through my community with no lights on. I think that's a kind of call that we see frequently. And there's a suspicious, a lot of times it's a couple of kids in the car together. Sometimes it's something else. Sometimes it's nothing, and sometimes it's something. So.
Well, I have read the newspaper, the local one, and I noticed that the air conditioning unit was stolen from the Dollar General about pitching wedge from here.
Yeah.
So there is a fair amount of crime in this community.
Yeah, I mean, we sit on a state road that sees 35 and 40,000 cars a day. A lot of people come through here.
They go fast.
Come through all sections. So you're right. So I would just encourage reporting anything you see that you're concerned or feel needs to be documented. Any other public input? I will reopen for public input after at the end of the meeting. I just wanted to give people the opportunity, if they didn't want to stay around for the whole meeting, to do so. Any other public input?
Yes, I would like to basically touch on what he was saying about the neighborhood watch. How could we go about setting something like that up within our neighborhoods? What is the process of doing something like that?
I don't have a great deal of experience with the Neighborhood Watch program, but I'm sure Chief Wallace has some experience. It's primarily, as I understand it, community driven, but with some support and leadership from the police department.
I mean, could each individual neighborhood go to the police department? Because I would love to see that, especially in my neighborhood, and I know other neighborhoods.
There are many ways to do that, either by neighborhood or by village. Mm-hmm. Years ago, they had a pretty robust neighborhood watch here that was village-wide, and what they would do is have their once-a-month meetings either here or at another location and kind of move it from place to place and do the little neighborhood watch programs.
Okay.
What I would recommend is at the December 5th council meeting, when the new police chief is appointed on that evening, we'll have that open house from 5 to 7. Chief Wallace has a ton of experience in this. It just happens that there's a new chief coming.
Right.
So, having been involved in the hiring process, his background is heavily steeped in community-oriented policing. So rather than Chief Wallace trying to upstart a community police organization in the last couple of weeks of his time here as interim chief, I think that'd be a good thing to talk to the incoming chief about.
I just know in our neighborhood we've had some suspicious, I guess you would say, activity going on at some of our houses in our neighborhood. And I know that things have been talked about, it has been brought up to the attention, and I mean, it has slowed down, but at the same time, if we had some type of neighborhood watch within our community, maybe that might deter some of the actions that are going on.
I think that'd be a great thing.
Thank you.
Good place to start, I think, would be the October 5th. And
Make you chief. Make you chief.
Well, that's one of the issues, to be honest with you. Over the years since I've been here, we've had a police watch, and then there was an interruption in the service of it, and then the biggest reason that there's honestly not a police watch right now is a manpower issue, a staffing issue. And the other really, really big piece of it is lack of public interest. Somebody sort of has to be involved from a citizen standpoint. You need a committee of people to do that. And maybe once a year, somebody will step forward and make such a recommendation. There just hasn't been the follow through. So I'm counting on you to do the follow through.
I will be here on that meeting and suggest it to the chief then. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, public input? All right. With no other questions for public input at this time, would ask for a motion from council to adjourn to an executive session at 8:48 p.m. for an executive session to discussing pending litigation pursuant to the revised code 121.22G. We would ask the village solicitor to join us in the executive session.
So move.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll be back as quickly as we can. You're welcome to stay and participate in the public input at the end of the meeting.
I see 6 fires plus you.
That's 10 altogether. All right, this time I entertain a motion to return from executive session
So move.
at 8:59.
I'll second.
Discussion or questions? Roll call.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Pollard.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yep.
Mr. Hart.
Yay.
Mr. Rouser.
Yay.
Mr. Packer.
Yeah.
We are back.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda this evening is legislation. We have 3 pieces of legislation prepared this evening for council's consideration. The first is ordinance number O-2011-54. I referenced this ordinance earlier tonight. It's an ordinance appointing Darren D. Miller to the position of Assistant Village Prosecutor or Solicitor and declaring an emergency. At this time, I entertain a motion from council to suspend the rules for 3 readings on 3 dates.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Pollard.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Mr. Hart.
Yay.
Mr. Rouser.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
6-0. Rule suspended.
This time, I entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number O-2011-54.
So move.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Roll call.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Mr. Rouser.
Yay.
Mr. Hart.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber. Mr.
Yay.
Pollard.
Yay.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
6-0. Adopted.
Both of them say yay.
Ms. Carney, do you have anything you wanted to talk about on this?
Yeah, I was just going to give you a little bit of background on Mr. Miller. He served as an assistant prosecuting attorney in Clermont County for 2 years. And he's also held the position of traffic and criminal magistrate for Clermont County Municipal Court. And he also has been the mediator and magistrate for the Clermont County Court of Common Pleas. He's also a member of the Clermont County Bar and Clermont County resident. And he came highly recommended, so I think he will do a fabulous job for the village.
I signed that a copy for you.
Actually, I have a copy. I'll send that to you.
Okay.
And I will be here tomorrow evening for Mayor's Court just to make sure everything goes smoothly for the first night.
I sent out an email. I'm not sure if you received it tonight. I just sent it out this evening to all employees. Julia has not had an official introduction to department heads, police chief, public works. Kevin has met her here. But there's not been an official introduction at this point. And the reason for that is because we were waiting for this piece of the puzzle to fall into place. I didn't think it made sense to, in this case, to pay Julia to come out and introduce herself to the police department, only to have to come back out and introduce herself to the police department along with the new solicitor, with the assistant solicitor. So she'll be here tomorrow night in court. And then if you guys are available on the night we have the open house for the new police chief,
I will be here.
that'd be an ideal time for everybody just to get to know each other a little bit. Thank you. Next piece of legislation this evening is ordinance number O-2010-55, an ordinance by the Council of Amelia Village, Clermont County, Ohio, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Ori Stewart as an independent contractor to provide videotaping service, declaring an emergency. I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules for 3 readings on 3 dates.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Questions?
Haven't we read this before already?
It's a new one.
It was tabled the last time.
It was tabled.
Any discussion or questions before I move to a roll call? Ordinance number O-2010-55. Roll call, please. Yeah, roll call.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Pollock.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Mr. Hart.
Yay.
Mr. Rosser.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0 to suspend.
Okay. Ordinance number O-2010-55. At this time, I entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Roll call.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Mr. Pollock.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Mr. Hart.
Yay.
Mr. Rosser.
Yay.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Passes 6-0.
Ordinance number O-2010-55 is adopted. Last ordinance this evening is ordinance number O-2011-56, an ordinance by the Council of Amelia Village, Ohio, amending the annual appropriations of village funds for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2011, for the Amelia Village and declaring an emergency. At this time, I entertain a motion from council to suspend the rules for 3 readings on 3 dates.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Mr. Rosser.
Yay.
Mr. Hart.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Mr. Pollock.
Yay.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
Rules suspended.
This time, I entertain a motion from council to adopt ordinance number O-2011-56.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Did we adopt yet?
Nope. So we're doing
Yeah.
that.
That's what's not.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Thacker.
Yay.
Mr. Rosser.
Yay.
Mr. Hart.
Yay.
Ms. Gerber.
Yay.
Mr. Pollock.
Yay.
Mr. Campbell.
Yay.
It is adopted 6-0.
Thank you. I just saw a note that I made on my agenda here that I wanted to bring up during the Public Works report. I'm going to offer a special thank you to a member of the Public Works Department, Chuck Kilgore, who worked very hard along with the Amelia Elementary staff or the PTA, to coordinate that festival event. He did a great job, and make sure you pass on our thank you for that. Did a really good job. Next item on the agenda this evening, we'll reopen public input. If you would like to address council, now's the time. Just introduce yourself and state your business.
Sue Rosser. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Renee for being re-elected. So
Thank
now
you.
we can say you were just appointed. Another thing, a couple weeks ago, or it might have been a month ago, I put in a public request. And I'd just like to ask you, Mayor, when was the last time that we held a finance committee meeting?
There was one held, was it last week? Or the week before?
Election night.
Election night. November 8th.
Okay.
No.
I put in a request for July and on, and I don't have anything for September or October. Is there a reason why we didn't hold a committee meeting? Being that it seems like the village does have some financial issues.
It's black form. We couldn't get anybody there.
So the quorum consists of who? Who is on the committee?
It's myself, Derek, Bob, the mayor, and the fiscal officer. I believe the mayor and the fiscal officer are both non-voting members. So I guess the quorum would be strictly Mr. Campbell, Mr. Paul, and myself.
Okay. Being that you 3 are council members, don't you think it's kind of important to go over the finances with the village and see what needs to be done and stuff?
Yes.
Yes. And we did have this problem in the past with other members as well.
Seems like a finance committee should be big on the list, that people should really be interested in, having that meeting, even if you can't meet on the normal day that you should meet on, come up with an alternative date. At least if you had last meeting in July, I don't even remember if I even seen August on here, but somewhere in between there, between July and November, I would think at least would at least have one meeting. And also on here, do we not keep minutes for the finance committee?
We do have some minutes that were presented for the November 8th meeting.
Yeah.
There.
It's just short and sick. We've always kind of treated them as the finance, the reports have kind of been held as our minutes.
Well, there's a copy of the minutes right there.
I mean, your
That's a
report
report.
and
Sorry
minutes,
about it.
is that two different things?
I guess we'd have to ask you. I don't have the slightest clue, but there's no minutes for any other committee either.
There
And
is minutes
beside
that
there
are
were-
taken for planning. I know I've been there to those meetings.
But there's not been any reports.
Well, my question is on finance.
Okay.
Is there not minutes that's supposed to be taken? I mean, as a public resident, wanting to see what that committee is conducting and know what's going on, I sure would like to see a little bit of what you guys are discussing.
Minutes should be prepared, just a general summary. Does it need to be, just so, as she says, someone from the public can determine what occurred. It doesn't need to be a verbatim, word-for-word report, but just a summary of the items of discussion and any actions that the committee may take, which a committee would not be really taking any actions other than making recommendations to council.
So then if I send you a copy of my reports, we can check them out and make sure that at least the 3 meetings I've held are up to snuff?
We can review those.
Okay.
Make sure that
They can qualify as minutes?
we'll need to,
Yeah,
Okay.
because
I have
the
some
one we got
formatting
tonight
change.
is not sufficient for, I mean, even as a council member, that's not sufficient.
So I guess
Well,
my
actually, it is for
question
me.
is,
Their
Well, it's not for
discussion
me.
was The 2012 budget.
Yeah, but there was
That's
a lot
pretty
more
huge.
discussed, there was a lot more discussed that night than just the budget.
I
And
guess-
none of that is written down on here.
I guess my question is, would be to the solicitor. Is there a such thing as minutes and then such thing as an overall report you're giving to the fellow council members? Are they one and the same, two different things?
it's how council wants to operate. If they want a separate report from the committee, they can do that. Minutes are something else that's required of.
Presently, in Planning Commission and Finance Committee, Planning Commission and Recreation Commission, minutes are taken and approved at each meeting. The minutes from the last meeting are approved at each meeting. And then there's also a recreation report.
Okay.
And a planning report.
So
your report to council may be different than.
And this was not read tonight either.
That's really my fault.
Okay.
I'll take the knife on that. I didn't have it written down.
So then what I'm hearing is there is minutes and there is report. Is that not?
Minutes will need to be prepared
Okay.
and then approved by the committee, and then they would be available to the public once they are formalized by the committee, because they're just kind of a draft document until they're approved.
Okay. And then I guess another question I have. Can someone speak at those meetings or not speak at those meetings?
I'll let the solicitor address that.
That's up to the chair of the committee. A public meeting means that it's open to the public. We have to do the notification. It has to be in a public location. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to allow the public to speak or take public input. And it really depends on the type of committee. A planning commission is more likely to take public input than a finance committee. But it just depends on the committee and their rules and how they operate.
Okay.
And a lot of it is at the discretion of the chairperson as well.
So if you would say, opening of your meeting, there was no public input, why would one then let someone else of the public speak over someone else of the public speak? If there's no public input, there's no public input. Is that correct?
If the chair is running the meeting as stated, it really depends on what the rules of the committee are and how the chair is running the meeting. So there should be consistent rules throughout.
You might need to address that. Because from my understanding, someone was told that there's no public input at the finance meeting, and then later on that day, they let another public person have input. Why one resident can and one can't, I don't understand that.
I guess what happened basically is I came in sitting in the back with the chief. These gentlemen were talking about a subject. They were kind of clueless to the answer because I had been here for 23 years. I simply, when they brought it up and they were talking, I said, oh, by the way, so-and-so owned that property or so-and-so did that. That was pretty much the conversation. I mean, if we need to get rules together, if all this is going to just continue to go on and on and on, then yeah, we'll sit down, we'll get rules written up, and everybody will go by that. But right now, no real committees here have rules. And as far as meeting, you know, none of these committees have any functional meetings on a daily basis. I mean, even planning. I sat in a planning meeting last month looking at a date of 2010, thinking, no, this date's wrong. And they go, no, that meeting, the last meeting we had was October 2010. This was October 2011. So, you know, to sit up here and bash all the committees, I think is crazy. We're all going to try and work. We're going to try to work together.
Legally, are you to have minutes? As a public resident, I pay taxes here.
Right.
I think it's my legal right to ask the solicitor if there is rules, or legally, should there be minutes? She answered there was. And I asked separately about a report. Okay, we got that part solved. But what I'm asking is, it's offensive to state in a meeting in the beginning that there's no public input, and if you're out in the audience, you're John Public.
I agree. I did not know that coming into it, and actually, that should have been brought to my attention.
You.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
It has nothing to do with you.
The chairman of the committee reiterated. You told this person there's no public input during this meeting.
He should have.
He did. That's right.
So now we know, and we will make sure this, you know, we'll make sure.
Don't say I'm up here bashing. I'm asking questions.
There are rules for the planning commission and for the our recreation commission that we do abide by. Julie, when I asked you to look for rules for the finance committee, did you find any? Okay.
Even predating June, July, whenever I got into this mess, as far as rules for the finance committee?
I don't know of any rules that we have for the finance.
No, we didn't have any rules, but we were taking minutes.
Okay.
He asked me about rules.
So if there's, now I'm a little confused then. If there's no rules, how can a person, I understand that, but how can a person, if there are no rules, tell a person in the public, that's our rules? That's an out and out lie. You can't say that this is our rules. You can't talk. Well, where's the rules? Oh, well, we don't have any.
I don't think it was a rule stated. It was just for the meeting.
I'm pretty sure that's what was said.
No, we said we weren't seeking any public input.
No, I don't think that's.
And also, you said the rules. I was there at the finance committee.
Do you have
Probably
your
you
form?
might want to look at his notes.
You might want to look at mine.
For your
It's 3
agenda.
pages long, which you can probably use for your minutes.
I don't know if I brought any of that stuff with me.
Of course you did.
Probably at home. I don't think we went. I don't remember reading any rules. I remember saying we didn't see any. You guys got to remember too. You know.
Well, you had it in your agenda.
If there are no rules
I
present,
don't know that you stated it was a rule. Or I just,
what rules do you follow?
If you
Tear
have
it up.
minutes, you would know.
I'm not even going to argue.
Generally, if a committee does not have their own rules, they follow Robert's rules.
Correct. So where in the Roberts rules does it state?
Generally, I serve as counsel to this board if they would like me to address.
I would like it to be addressed. And my other question, I think, is that we were told prior to that, because I know Chuck had asked on many occasions if he could attend the finance committee meetings. And he was told no, because that would constitute a quorum.
If he
Now,
spoke.
if
No,
if he spoke,
If he spoke,
that
he
would
didn't
constitute
sit.
a quorum.
No, you're correct in that.
I
Initially,
know
I was
I'm correct.
You're correct in that. I was initially told that I was not allowed to attend any finance committee meetings.
No, you weren't,
could
you
attend,
could
but
attend,
No,
you couldn't
the
talk.
initial
Let's
statement
get it
from
right.
Mrs. Abrams was that I was not allowed to attend. She or
No,
somebody.
No.
May not
you
have been
can
the same.
attend.
Let me take the name off that. I was told I was not allowed to attend when I first asked. Then it was changed to you're allowed to attend, but you're not allowed to speak.
You're wrong. She said you couldn't speak. Anybody can attend.
No, I was the initial time I was told. It may not have been directly from Mrs. Abrams. It may have been from Leroy, it may have been from whoever. The first time I asked about it, the answer was no, you're not allowed to even attend because there's a quorum. I was there. I was on the receiving end of it. I remember explicitly what was said. You want to argue with it? That's fine. I'm done.
I would suggest that we move to the bottom line and ask the solicitor to draft appropriate meeting minutes or appropriate rules for subcommittees such as the Finance Committee and any subcommittee. And it's clear what the committee's obligations are. And resident has a desire to speak, and if it's not within the confines of the rules, then they can be some attempt made to allow for residents to speak, either at a council meeting, they could come and say, I was at the Finance Committee meeting, I heard this, I'd like to ask a question about that. I don't know what, but anyway, I think it's a smart idea to have.
I would agree that rules would be beneficial. I have the Finance Committee, the Planning Commission, and Recreation. Are there any other committees that I'm not aware of?
We have
Paul, which one
planning,
do you have?
we have planning commission.
I can't remember
Okay.
what
We don't
call
have
it.
recreation commissioners, we don't have BZA.
The one I presented all the facts to
And
you?
we don't have finance.
That was looking
Was
into
that
a city,
Yeah.
from, becoming a village to a city.
Right.
We have a committee for that, not information,
But that's a dead horse right now.
pretty much. But I'd
And,
be all
maybe it's just one set of rules generally
for each committee, because I think we're gonna have some other committees the first few years. so.
Yeah, and some of these are not necessarily committees that are legislatively necessary,
Right.
but that's
they
why
serve a
I refer
purpose.
to them as subcommittees.
Right.
So they should still have some sort of boundaries.
We do have Julie for minutes at Recreation, so I'd be all for someone other than the committee people taking the minutes at the meeting.
What about? I'm thinking we were going to start using you, Kevin. You got any objection to taking minutes at the Finance Committee meeting?
I have a bit of not an objection, but a concern about that. He comes to every meeting. Well, he's at that meeting anyway.
Anyways, that's what I'm saying. the
But
Finance
I mean,
Committee meeting.
at that meeting, it solves the problem. But he's restricted to 24 hours a week.
Yeah.
And every meeting that we have takes the, like if we have a 3-hour meeting tonight, he's restricted to 21 hours in office.
Yeah, I was solely asking for Finance Committee, just to be clear.
And why can't you do it? Why can't you do it or he do it? Why
We can
would
make
he have to
somebody
do
else
it?
do it.
He takes minutes anyway.
Yeah, I
He's
figured
good
he's
at
a
it.
pro at it.
So
So
he's
he's
good
good
at it,
minutes. He
he'll
would
get
be the
good
best
minutes.
guy to ask.
Yep.
And I will get with you. We will get minutes together. I will fire you up an email with all my reports in it to you can look over them. Let me know what I need to fix, and I will fix it ASAP.
Okay.
And we will approve our minutes. Can we have the minutes been approved from past years so we can clean up the entire? If there are any unapproved minutes out there for Finance Committee, can we get them?
I've never been to a finance committee meeting.
Okay.
But
Mr.
just
Ross,
the
do you
rules.
have?
That's Derek.
Derek's got the minutes?
I do have some minutes.
Okay. Any unapproved minutes standing out there for Finance Committee, let's get them in. Let's get them approved on our 13th meeting.
Okay.
Can I just ask another question since we're talking about minutes? How long does it take for the minutes to get out on the website? I think the last minutes they're posted out there like in August. I don't even think September's out there.
It depends on how much other stuff I've got going. I mean, it takes, with council meeting only twice a month, I won't post them until after council's approved them. And if I'm up to my neck in alligators, posting them on the website becomes a secondary matter. As long as they're available for the public here, that's all I'm caring about.
Well, I'm just trying to save time, not having to take up Julie's time to do a public records request if I can just pull it off the internet.
Yeah,
Maybe someone else needs to quick post the minutes then.
the next batch, I was waiting for the October 27th to get signed. Once those are signed, we'll be caught up and they'll be posted. They'll be sent to the website tomorrow sometime, I hope.
Okay. I'm just trying to save Julie's time from making public records requests when the minutes are out on the website.
In general, so the only comment I'll add is that in general, the workload that's spread among our administrative people is vast. And that between Kevin, who is restricted to 24 hours a week, and it's my personal opinion that as things get leaner and leaner, and they are leaner, that there's actually a greater need for him to be here full time. Because every time council asks for an analysis, or every time I ask for an analysis, from Kevin, it takes him away from actually doing the job that we hired him to do 24 hours a week. And an analysis that has been rushed through is subject to greater level of error, in my opinion. So, I mean, that's something that's of a concern to me in general, is that I can't tell you how many times I've really wanted an analysis from Kevin. We've had discussions about it. Many of them I've requested and gotten. But if it's going to be something that's going to cost him 4, 5, 6 hours time to go back historically and review data from years back, if we're trying to find out what we spent historically on something over the last 10 years, and the UN goes back how long?
After much arm twisting and threats of litigation, we're back to 2003.
So my point is that it should be, it's my recommendation for council looking into the future to find a way, if possible, when times are leaner. And I, as I said, the lean times are here. It would be smart money for a full-time fiscal officer, because 24 hours a week, it takes more than that just to execute the bills and payroll. It's just being honest with you. I'm not speaking because Kevin's my best friend. I'm just saying that, just the honest truth. It just takes longer than that just to process the paperwork, much less get the analysis we need to make good decisions up here. You're welcome to contradict me or tell me wrong.
Well, what I was just going to tell you is that fortunately I had time enough to get maybe 1/3 of payroll done for this week, these being the 1/3, since they're supposed to be paid at the second meeting. So when I got here, the first thing I did is I printed the checks, because I was waiting. There's about 3 other people that get paid by check. Everyone else is electronic pay. I wanted to do them all at once just because it's simpler. They're done, but I still have another 7 or 8 people to process before all the payroll's done. And then following that, there's the payments that need to be forwarded to the IRS, deferred comp. No, blast. Health insurance. Those are every pay period, every month. There's the pension systems that need to be paid, and the police and fire is the biggest pain in the neck ever. They'll give you 3 confirmations, but none of them have a thing to do with the actual payment. That's a 4th confirmation you have to go into a separate set of screens to get to. I got the billing for the village share for the police pension, so I'll have to verify those numbers, which fortunately it's not due till the end of December, but still that's going to take a few hours just to verify those numbers. Next month we'll have all the quarterly tax payments to Milford, Mount Orb, and Loveland, as well as the quarterly reports to the state and the IRS. So it doesn't look like it's that much when you got 12 people working for the village, but it can take easily 2 days to get all the payroll done when you have it end a month or even end a quarter.
So you have essentially a business with a $3 million budget and a part-time guy responsible for dispensing income and revenue. Another thing that is just a recommendation for council in the future and for finance committee to consider is if you can't make the appropriations come out in such a way that there would be room for a full-time position for a fiscal officer, perhaps you might look at a clerk, someone just to assist a fiscal officer in doing some of the tasks that don't require the same level of expertise that Kevin has. Just a suggestion.
Just to talk about the finance committee, when we were doing it with Tim, we've still used the reports as our minutes.
Right.
So, that's kind of the synopsis of what we had recorded during the meeting.
Yeah.
And if we need to change that, that's fine.
Yeah, but we were consistent. There was a detailed report. Bob was, you were doing the minutes, and Bob was.
I wrote the report
yeah.
off of the minutes.
Exactly. And it was consistent.
Something that we can address easily.
Yeah, I'd be happy to review them and we can make sure that we have what we need.
Other public input. Go ahead.
Yep, I got a question for Mr. Thacker. Last meeting, you denied paying the bills. And I've just been told right now for this meeting, you denied paying the bills. You as the head of the finance committee, what are you seeing that the other 5 members aren't seeing? That you don't want to pay the bills?
I think the best way to say this without getting in an argument with anyone. I was told when I first started here I really didn't like one of the bills, and I was told the only recourse I have as a council member was to vote against the bills. That's what I did. Now I don't care to discuss what bill I don't like, because I'm not interested in arguing about it for an hour.
Okay, so you don't want to put nothing out there, police department funding, something like that?
That's, like I said,
You just don't want to pay the
there's
bills?
a particular bill on there I don't like, and I was told that as a council member that's the only recourse I have.
Well, wouldn't you, as a council member, discuss with the other members why you feel that this one bill should not be paid? Or it should be reduced? Well, I don't know what you want to do.
Like I said, I'm not interested in arguing about it.
Huh, okay. But, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say, I was at that finance committee on, which one was it, November 8th?
Mm-hmm.
4 minutes into the meeting, I was told there was no public input, and it was the rules, which I had no problem with that at all. That's the rules, that's the rules. But when someone in the public starts speaking, and the head of the finance committee does not stand up and say, hey, hold on, you have to stop because in the very beginning, I stated, then we have a serious problem with leadership on the committees. That they should start following the rules and start listening to the public. So my next question is, Tim, was there always public input when you conducted the finance committee?
We would allow it, but you know what? Majority of the time we didn't have anyone show up. We didn't. It was rare.
I think it was never.
Yeah.
For five.
So right now, I just want to get it on the record so the people in the audience and also on TV know that if they come to one of these committees, either they have a voice or not. So the only one that does not have a voice is the finance committee. Correct?
Well, it depends on for the future.
For the future.
For the future, it depends on the rules adopted by council.
Okay.
And what I would say in this case is, I wasn't at the meeting, but I would honestly just say, not to throw daggers at anybody, just a mistaken judgment.
Yeah. think retraining needs to be done.
I think that, from my standpoint, this is not intended to be a malicious statement on my part. From my standpoint, I've sat up here for 4 years and I've asked for community input and rarely get it. And so I think anytime a resident is taking the time to step forward and provide some input or at least be involved, that should be viewed as a positive thing, even though many times, and I've been fallen victim of this, where sometimes the public input is malicious. It's intended to discredit you or intended to expose something. Still, you can't have it both ways. You have public input or you don't. It can't be selective, at least in my opinion. It'll be the incoming council's determination when they review their rules of council as to how they're going to conduct public input in the future. And it'll be this council's decision once the solicitor draws up some rules for the subcommittee levels. I personally apologize to you. I think it's
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Error in judgment. I can't speak to any malice. I wasn't there. I don't know. But I will also say to that end that there are times when, especially in the finance committee, when public input would be detrimental, because you're really in a work session and you're really trying to crunch through some numbers and trying to do that. It might really slow the process down, but it'd be a matter of, in my opinion, making it known that there's no public input at this meeting tonight. We would welcome your thoughts at an upcoming council meeting, etc.
Okay, so I got a question maybe for the finance committee. I know I asked Kevin and Derek before it started that was there any paperwork that the public could follow along. Can you produce something that the public can follow along? Because I'm going to tell you, me as the public out there, that one day, I was totally lost in the numbers when you threw numbers out there. You said 48. Well, I didn't know $48, 48,000, 4,800. I don't know exactly what you're saying. Is there, like, you can have the same document available for the public so they can follow along and then take it back, and if the public wants it later, they can do a public request?
As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Julia, any document that we hold up here, it can be made available. Well, there are some.
No, not necessarily. It has to document the actions of council, which budgetary things would, but there are other exceptions to public records law, and it would just be how you choose to operate. It's not typical that large financial documents are copies put out for everybody. But if you knew people were coming and would want copies, you guys can make that decision to make those copies available.
If somebody filed a public records request for a specific document
yes,
that does
certainly.
exist.
Right. If they filed a public records request for a document, yeah, of course we would.
And it has to be a document that exists and that is not created.
Right. You don't have to create any new documents. If it's a document that the village has and uses, then of course we would.
For clarification, I'm scribbling on my paperwork here.
Mm-hmm.
If a person in the audience wants to know what I'm writing, can they ask this later?
Not typically. Those are your personal notes, which are not public record.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
And that's something that should be included in going over the rules, because who knows, when you're sitting here, it's like, I don't know, can we just give it to him, or do we have, and that's what I told him, it's like, we don't know for sure, or you have to do a public records request, or we just give it to him. So we need to, if it's an option, then we need to include it in the rules.
What kind of stuff on public finance committee would be handled that we wouldn't be allowed to do that? And if I were to give documents, let's say we had one person in the audience one time, we gave him all the documents he wanted. Next time we have 100 people, clearly we can't make that many documents available.
You can start with just an agenda.
Do we?
Right. I think usually larger communities will basically have the agenda available.
Previous minutes.
Right. But the city of Cincinnati's budget is that big, and if you call ahead of time and request it, they will give you a copy or a PDF, but it's not, you can't just show up at the meeting and expect that a copy will be available, but you can make that request.
I mean, it's at council's discretion, but I think it's somewhat
Right.
sensible to say, Mr. or Mrs. Citizen, here's a copy of tonight's agenda, and here's the minutes from the last meeting that council will be, or that the committee will be approving or denying, reviewing tonight. They would have an idea what happened in the last meeting and see what's being discussed.
You know, if, like the BZA tomorrow night, we can have copies of the staff report available.
We, like I said before, there would be no problem with, like, if we were looking at a spreadsheet, we've got one person in the audience, no problem making a copy of that. Would it cause problems
really
if the
depends.
next time we do it, we have 50 people there, and is that going to put us in a bad place? Because, I mean, you know, I've got no problem making a copy or two, but if it gets to be, that's going to be a problem.
You know, you can always charge for a public records request, your
We do.
copying costs. And then, if there's confidential information, you want to redact that. And that's why I'm a little hesitant that not everything can just be put out there for public review. A lot of times you will want your legal counsel to review it.
That's what I was going to say next. You always want to, because there might be social security numbers on there.
Addresses.
Any kind of information that is either sensitive in nature or is opinion or whatever the criteria is.
Okay, that's cool. So agenda and minutes, we're safe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that's done deal.
Other public input this evening? Yes, ma'am.
I'll say 13 month light. I'm going to lighten the mood a little bit here. I want to know, in light of the Donut Gate saga, am I allowed to bake him cookies for removing snow from my street, or will that get him in trouble?
I don't know the answer to that.
Bake the cookies.
I've been hearing about it.
I mean, I can't give this man a turkey sandwich because I'm afraid I'll get him in trouble if he's going to work, you know, the second shift. So I don't know what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do to say thank you for helping me, helping my community as a citizen.
As a public employee, they're not really supposed to accept gifts. They can accept small things that wouldn't influence them in any way, say cookies or a cup of coffee. Anything more expensive.
Butter cookies are really good.
Anything more expensive than that could be seen as an ethics violation. So we don't want to get them in trouble. But a minor gesture would not get them in
I just
trouble.
like to say thank you to those guys because they do work.
I understand. I want
long
to
shifts.
give the guy who
Right.
does my street, you know, some coffee or something in the mail.
I just didn't realize I could have gotten somebody in trouble by giving him a bag of cookies. So, not an issue.
Yeah, throughout the holiday season, we'll receive a basket of fruit up here from whatever, the Amelia Business Association or something.
Right.
Usually sits here on the counter and people walk by.
Right,
and
put it out for everyone so that it doesn't look like an individual gift to any one person.
You gotta make cookies for everybody.
Bring enough for the whole class.
Oh, you fast. Other public input? Council input?
Do we need a motion on putting up the lights on Main Street, or is it just something that the mayor will just have them take care of?
Done every year.
I mean, have you gone over with Ricky the specifics in terms of wood poles, et cetera?
He has all but the two that
Yeah, I think right
we have
down
to
to that.
expand.
We
We
went
have
out and did
12.
a survey and wrote the numbers down.
Do you know exactly what you need to do?
Yes.
Julie, is there any reason why there has to be a motion, or can I just
No,
make it
you
right?
can just do that.
All right.
Are we taking the flags down, Ricky?
We have already.
Oh, okay. Shows you how much I get out.
I do have to take the ones out of the cemetery with the flags along Main.
Would you like, once you pass the town, they have to drive over.
Yeah, watch out when I'm driving.
You should put the holiday stuff up after Christmas?
We usually start
After Thanksgiving?
After Thanksgiving.
I didn't say which holiday. Valentine's Day.
Yes,
Valentine's Day is a
we'll do
holiday
that.
too, so St. Patrick's Day.
That's true.
Yeah, we usually, right after
within a day or two after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Like it would be next week, we start scheduling that.
All right,
Now,
go ahead and
Duke-
start scheduling that.
Duke, when I spoke to them on the phone, they said there would be a delay because we didn't get in our polls last week, so it may be a couple days off after Thanksgiving before they turn on the power.
And you got
We'll
the,
be ready.
You'll have, yeah.
We'll be ready.
you got the paperwork ready to make the notification on the power? Or do you have it, Derek?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay.
I'm going to give it to Rick in a minute.
All right, good. And just go ahead and proceed with the plan and
Okay.
move forward with the lighting.
Because there will be the rental of a bucket truck to do that. That we'll have to line up.
All right. Any other questions or input from council this evening? With no further council input, I'll move to adjourn at 9:44 p.m.
I make the
All in
motion to
favor?
adjourn.
All right.
Aye. He got a first. Give me a second.
Wait a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So adjourned.